let your breath slow, your body relax, go, as you begin to drift gently into the distant past, a time of iron and fire, of crumbling walls, and the heartbeat of a wounded city. Tonight, we return to ancient Rome, but not the marble metropolis of emperors and grandeur. No, this is the early republic, still young, still uncertain, still haunted by the echo of kings long gone. It is the year 390 before Christ, and Rome has just suffered the unthinkable. Barbarian invaders, tall, fierce warriors from the North Gauls, have stormed the city, broken its defenses, and set its heart aflame. The sacred temples, the homes of the senators, the archives of memory, all gone, to ash and ruin. Only a few Romans remain, huddled atop the Capitoline hill, defiant but desperate. In the rest of the city, silent, smoldering, ghostly. But this is not a story of final defeat. No, this is a story of return, of honor, and of a man called Marcus Furius Camillus. A name whispered like a prayer. A name that will become legend. Camillus was not in Rome when the Gauls attacked. He had been sent into exile by his own people, accused of arrogance, pride, perhaps even of taking too much glory after his victories. He had once triumphed over Rome's ancient rival and brought home wealth beyond measure. But in the city of Rome, praise could turn to envy like wine turning sour. The Senate exiled him. And so, when the Gauls came, Marcus Camillus was far from the city's burning walls. But he was not lost to it. No, for in the ashes of ruin, Rome remembered him. The Senate, trembling atop the Capitoline, sent envoys to find him, to beg his return, to ask him to save them. They found Camillus in the countryside, older now, his face weathered by time, but his eyes, still sharp as a sword, freshly drawn. He listened, and, without bitterness, without hesitation, he accepted, but not as a mere commander. No, Camillus would only return as dictator, given full power to save Rome. And so the old soldier came home. Not to the cheers of a parade, but to the silence of a smoldering grave. Yet he carried with him the fire of hope. As Camillus gathered what forces he could, the Gauls were still in Rome. They had settled among the ruins, looting, mocking, waiting. Their chieftain Brutus watched the city like a lion in a quiet den, while the remaining Romans, high upon the Capitoline hill, clung to the gods and to memory. Supplies grew thin, hope even thinner. Then a meeting was arranged, not of warriors, but of gold. The Romans, desperate, offered to ransom their city, 1,000 pounds of gold. Brutus agreed. But as the scales were brought forth and the gold heaped upon them, the Romans noticed the Gauls were cheating the weight. They protested, and Brutus, with a mocking grin, tossed his sword atop the scale, shouting the words that would echo through history: Vi Victis. Woe to the vanquished. Rome had fallen low, but it had not yet reached the end. Because, as the last coins were counted, a sound rose in the distance, the rhythm of marching feet, Roman rhythm. Camillus had returned. Camillus arrived not as a beggar, nor a diplomat, but as a dictator, legally named by the Roman Senate in exile. A title not of tyranny in those ancient times, but of supreme, sacred emergency. With the authority of Rome coursing through his veins, he stood before Brutus and the Gallic warband, a city behind them, smoldering, civilization before them, unbowed. He ordered the gold taken back, the ransom nullified. Rome redeems herself, Camillus declared, with iron not with gold. The Gauls, startled, laughed at first, but they soon found that Camillus had come with more than words. A fresh Roman force, assembled in secret, now surrounded the Gauls. A battle erupted, not on the ruined streets, but just beyond the city's edge, where hills still whispered of Rome's resilience. Camillus fought like Mars himself had stepped into the fray. And when the dust settled, it was not Brutus who stood. The Gauls were defeated, scattered. broken. Rome was free, but its walls were blackened, its temples shattered, its soul wounded. Camillus did not celebrate as a man of conquest. He wept for the hearths turned to ash, for the altars defiled, for the children whose laughter no longer echoed through Rome's streets, but from sorrow he forged resolve. He turned to the Roman people, many of whom had fled to Veii and now considered not returning. Some even wished to abandon Rome altogether to make a new life in that untouched Etruscan city. It was Camillus who stood before them, not as a soldier now, but as a father to the wounded soul of the Republic. "Rome is not the stones," he said softly. "Rome is her spirit, her people, her gods. If we abandon her now, we break the vow our ancestors made when they carved her from the hills." And the people, stirred by his voice, by his presence, they returned with hammers in hand, hearts still aching, but unyielding. They rebuilt not quickly, nor easily, but with devotion as their mortars, and memory as their blueprint. As the years passed, Camillus was called to serve again. Once more, the winds of war blew from the north, this time from the Etruscans and their allies. Rome, still fragile, looked again to her guardian, accepted, not for glory, not for spoils, but because Rome had become more than a city to him. She was a daughter, reborn, a sacred trust. He led Rome to victory after victory. He reorganized the army, shared land with the poor, and tried to bridge the growing rift between patricians and plebeians. Some called him second founder of Rome, a title he never claimed for himself. He refused triumphal processions, refused statues in his likeness. When he finally retired from public life, it was not into exile nor obscurity, but into quiet dignity. A simple Roman home, filled with the scent of baked bread and olive oil, where grandchildren asked for stories of gods, wolves, and the river Tiber. And sometimes, at twilight, he would walk the rebuilt forum, listening to the laughter of merchants, the chants of priests, the gossip of senators, and he would smile. Rome had risen, and though history would carve his name into marble, Camillus would remain in his heart, just a man who could not let her fall. In time, age would take him, not sword or sickness, but time itself. And when Marcus Furius Camillus passed, Rome wept as for a father. They gave him honors, not for wealth or conquest, but for the soul he lent to a shaken city. Bards sang of his deeds beside the myths of Romulus and Remus. Children whispered his name at dusk, as a protector who came when all seemed lost. And though the stones of the old Capitol still bore scorch marks from that dark Gallic day, they also bore new carvings, columns of triumph, arches of renewal. Rome, reborn, and in the centuries to come, whenever Rome faced ruin, whether from barbarians or within, some would speak of Camillus as the man who reminded the Republic who she was, who stood between the ashes and the flame, who taught her to rise again. So sleep now, as the echoes of his footsteps fade into the mists of time. And let the quiet strength of his legacy guide your dreams toward dawn.